Stillwater Lake was supposed to be our sanctuary, nestled deep in the pines and flanked by mossy trails only locals knew. Our old timber cabin stood far enough from the city to forget it existed. My wife Cassidy and I had spent 7 years planning, saving, and dreaming of this escape, a quiet retreat free from deadlines, politics, and most of all, suburban drama. That peace shattered the day Karen Templeton arrived. It started innocently enough. Cassidy and I were unloading a new solar panel onto the porch when we heard the crunch of heels on gravel. We turned to see a woman in a pastel blouse and white capris, striding toward us like she owned the shoreline. Clipboard in hand. Sunglasses, too large for her face. Authority practically oozed off her. "You must be the new couple," she said, without so much as a smile. "I'm Karen Templeton, president of the Cedar Hills HOA. I extended a cautious hand. "Nice to meet you. But we're not in Cedar Hills. Our land's outside the HOA boundary." She laughed, a short, clipped sound. "Oh, not anymore. We recently voted to extend jurisdiction to properties along the eastern shore. That includes yours." Cassidy set the panel down with deliberate care. "That's impossible. We confirmed with the county before we bought. This land is private, unincorporated." Karen tilted her head, like a teacher correcting a wayward student. "It's a formality, really. We've already mailed out compliance guidelines. You'll want to review them." She handed Cassidy a glossy pamphlet titled Living Harmoniously, HOA, Standards and Lifestyle Vision. Cassidy didn't blink. "We're not interested." Karen's smile faded. "This isn't optional. Generator use, outdoor fire pits, boat sizes, those are regulated now. We'll need to schedule a compliance check." "You step 1 foot past that dock, Cassidy," said voice suddenly colder, "and I'll file a trespassing report." Karen blinked, momentarily thrown. Then she sniffed, pivoted on her heel, and marched back toward her white SUV, tires crunching like brittle bones under her steps. I turned to Cassidy. "You think she's serious?" Cassidy tucked the pamphlet under one arm and exhaled slowly. "She's not used to hearing the word no. That makes her dangerous." Over the next few days, we tried to laugh it off. We grilled steaks, kayaked at dawn, and sipped coffee while watching mist dance over the lake. But peace has a way of cracking under pressure, and Karen didn't stay away for long. The first letter arrived 2 days later, stuffed into our mailbox without postage. It was printed on Cedar Hills letterhead entitled Notice of Violation. The charges: unauthorized shoreline modification, excessive generator noise, and unapproved exterior decor. Cassidy held it like it was a used tissue. "They think a canoe, rack, and a propane grill are violations. I think they're testing us." She tore the letter in half and tossed it into the fire pit. That night, a motion-activated light blinked on near the tool shed. I peeked through the curtain. Nothing, just wind teasing the treetops. But Cassidy wasn't so sure. By morning, fresh boot prints circled our deck, too small for mine, too heavy for hers. "Someone's watching us," she muttered. Karen reappeared that afternoon, standing just beyond the property line, arms crossed, watching us like a hawk. She didn't wave. She didn't speak. She just stood there as if willing us to accept the invisible leash she was offering. I wanted to ignore her. Cassidy didn't. She walked straight to the dock and called out, "Whatever game you're playing, pick another board. We don't answer to you." Karen turned, but not before we caught the smile tugging at her lips. She liked this, and that's when I understood. This wasn't about bylaws or property lines. It was about control. Karen didn't see a peaceful lakeside couple carving out a life off the grid. She saw disobedience, rebellion, a challenge to her paper throne. Cassidy saw it too. That night, she locked the shed, secured the gates, and doubled the drone jammer she kept stored in the utility closet. "She come again," she said quietly, "and next time it won't be alone." I looked out at the moonlit lake, our reflection rippling across black water. "She picked the wrong cabin." Cassidy didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her eyes were already on the tree line, watching, waiting. The second letter arrived, folded in a plastic sleeve, pinned to a wooden stake driven into the edge of our trail. Cassidy spotted it on her morning jog and ripped it off with barely veiled disgust. "She's escalating," she said, slapping it on the kitchen table. "Now it's refusal to submit property plans and ongoing environmental disruption." I scanned the document. This wasn't some passive-aggressive note anymore. It was a full-page legal-looking threat. Karen had started using real letterhead, with bold type and hollow legal jargon. She'd even cited non-existent subsections of a Community Integrity Act. "She's fabricating laws now," I muttered. Cassidy narrowed her eyes. "She's not just bluffing. She's preparing something. She wants us to react." I looked out the kitchen window. A white SUV sat parked 50 feet up the road. Binoculars glinted through the windshield. Cassidy had always had sharp instincts, strained and tempered by a decade in Army intelligence. She never said much about what she did overseas, but I could always tell when she shifted from casual to tactical. That shift happened now. "She's scouting our patterns," Cassidy said, "trying to see when we're here and when we're not." That evening, Cassidy installed 2 motion-activated cameras, one facing the trailhead and another pointed toward the dock. Then she dug out a thumb-sized GPS tracker and quietly slipped it under Karen's SUV bumper after dark. She wants to play games, Cassidy said. She just forgot I play them better. By the following morning we had data. Karen had driven by our cabin 6 times in the last 48 hours. 3 of those trips were between midnight and 3 a.m. that night. We caught a buzzing above the roofline. A drone, Cassidy whispered, pulling her hoodie up. She slipped outside with a flashlight and the jamming device. Moments later, the drone, it sputtered and crashed into the tree line with a soft thud. Cassidy retrieved it, popped out the memory card and plugged it into her laptop. Dozens of aerial photos, our grill, our dock, even a zoomed-in shot of Cassidy pruning the wild rosebush out back. She's gathering evidence, Cassidy said, building a fake case. I clenched my jaw. Should we call the sheriff? Cassidy shook her head. Not yet. If we jump the gun, she'll play the victim. We need to let her hang herself with her own rope. Over the next week, Karen intensified. Flyers appeared stapled to trees near the public boat ramp, unregistered residents ignoring safety codes, complete with a blurry photo of our cabin taken from across the lake. One morning, Cassidy returned from town, her face tight. She's been showing up at the county clerk's office, asking about land surveys, trying to contest our boundary lines. She can't do that, right? Cassidy opened a drawer and laid out our deed survey maps and signed county exemptions. She can try, but she fail unless she finds something to twist. That's why she's pushing. The breaking point came 4 days later. Cassidy had just stepped into the shower when I heard footsteps on the porch. Not gravel this time, heavy, deliberate thuds. I looked up from my book and froze. Karen stood at the edge of our deck. Not on it yet, but close, too close. She wore a stiff blazer, phone in one hand, and what looked like a folded document in the other. I'm here to conduct a compliance audit, she announced. I rose from my chair slowly. You're trespassing. Step back, she smiled. This is community enforcement. As HOA president, you don't govern this land. I do now, she snapped, and took one bold step forward. The screen door flew open behind me. Cassidy stepped out, towel around her neck, hair dripping, barefoot but unshaken. Her voice sliced the air. Step on this porch, and you'll find out what happens when someone confuses a cabin with a courtroom. Karen hesitated. Cassidy walked forward slow, certain, and pointed to the edge of the wood planks. That line right there. Cross it, and I file for criminal trespass. You'll be in court by Tuesday. Karen's mouth twisted, fingers tightening around her phone. She looked between us, calculating her next move. Then she stepped back. I'll be back with the board, she hissed. Cassidy didn't flinch. Bring whoever you want. Just remember, this isn't Cedar Hills. This is Stillwater. Karen turned and stormed down the trail, heels striking the gravel like a warning shot. Cassidy exhaled. She's not done, she murmured. She just declared war. It didn't take long. 2 days after Karen's last visit, a convoy of SUVs rolled up the trail like a mobile command unit. 5 vehicles in total for white, 1 black, each marked with a magnetic decal reading Cedar Hills Compliance Patrol. Cassidy was already on the roof installing a solar water heater when I stepped out to greet them. They came in formation, Karen leading the charge, clipboard in hand, flanked by 4 men in matching windbreakers and aviator sunglasses. One even wore a tactical belt like he expected to arrest someone. Cassidy dropped down from the roof like a ghost, wiping her hands on her cargo pants. I count 5. 4 flanks, 1 ego in charge. Karen marched to the edge of the dock and stopped just short of our porch. You were warned, she said. You refused all documented notices. Today we're here to enforce compliance. Cassidy folded her arms. This isn't Cedar Hills jurisdiction. You're on private, deeded land, and this is your last warning. Karen raised a folded document. This is a community citation signed by the HOA board. You violated 11 codes, including unauthorized fencing, non-standard energy sources, and obstruction of shared pathways. Cassidy didn't blink. There are no shared pathways. The tallest man behind Karen stepped forward, gripping a clipboard like a weapon. We're authorized to inspect the premises. If you interfere, we'll contact law enforcement. Cassidy gave a tight, almost amused smile. Please do. Karen stepped up, towing the porch's edge. You can't hide behind isolation anymore. This isn't about your rights. It's about order. The community must be unified. Cassidy looked her dead in the eye. I served 2 tours abroad defending freedom. I didn't come back to have it trampled by a woman with a clipboard and a fantasy. Karen's smile faltered. Cassidy pulled out her phone. This conversation is being recorded. As of now, you're in violation of state trespassing laws. You have 30 seconds to vacate. The compliance team shifted uncomfortably. One man looked toward the woods, suddenly unsure. Karen, though, stood her ground. Bluff all you want, she said. We'll be back with legal authority. Cassidy raised her flare gun. It wasn't loaded, but it didn't have to be. The message was enough. A bright orange shell clicked into the chamber with a distinct metallic snap. Karen flinched. You come back with more men, Cassidy said calmly, and I'll come back with the sheriff. That did it. Karen snapped her fingers, and her entourage turned on cue, retreating down the trail like a defeated regiment. The SUVs rolled away one by one, tires kicking up clouds of dust and fury. Cassidy didn't lower the flare gun until the last taillight disappeared. Then she turned to me. It's time. We activated every motion sensor on the property. We uploaded the encounter footage to Cassidy's private YouTube channel under the title, HOA Thugs Try to Raid Our Cabin. Watch what happens. By morning, the video had 23,000 views, and a voicemail from the county sheriff was waiting on our landline. Sheriff Jenkins arrived that afternoon in a dusty patrol cruiser, hat in hand and a smirk already forming. Been hearing chatter from Cedar Hills, he said. Karen says you pulled a weapon on her. It was a flare gun, Cassidy replied. Signal device. Totally legal. He chuckled. That's what I thought. I watched the video. Nicely done. She's coming back, Cassidy said, with something bigger. Jenkins nodded. Then I'll be here. But you may want to start collecting everything: photos, letters, drone footage. Make it airtight. Cassidy handed him a flash drive. Already done, he grinned. Remind me never to mess with you. That night, Cassidy stayed up late reviewing satellite imagery of the property lines, matching coordinates to each camera. She wasn't just defending our land, she was building a legal fortress. She's trying to wear us down, I said, watching her work under the soft glow of a desk lamp. Cassidy didn't look up. That's the tactic. Harass, intimidate, provoke. But she doesn't realize. She paused. This place isn't just a retreat. It's our line in the sand. I stared out into the dark, where the lake shimmered under moonlight like polished glass dot, and just beyond the trees. Something rustled, a twig snapped. Cassidy was already on her feet, one hand flicking off the safety of the flare gun. She's not done, she said, but neither are we. Karen's final attempt wasn't subtle. It happened on a cold Saturday morning. Fog clung to the lake like a heavy curtain, muting sound and dulling visibility. I was stacking firewood behind the cabin when Cassidy spotted the movement through the camera feed, a caravan of SUVs crawling up the gravel trail. She's back, she said, already pulling on her boots. I followed her to the front deck. 5 vehicles again. But this time they were marked Community Enforcement Division, Special Operations. It sounded official, but Cassidy had already dug into the registry. There was no such department. The first man out of the lead SUV wore a pressed navy blue blazer in mirrored shades. He carried a badge clipped to his belt, but it was plastic, shiny and cheap like something from a costume store. 2 more men flanked him, dressed in matching polos with embroidered HOA logos. Karen stepped out last, smug and radiant-like. She was descending from royalty. This is your final warning, she announced. You have 5 minutes to vacate the property for inspection. We've been authorized to enforce penalties, including property seizure. Cassidy let out a sharp laugh. Property seizure. You read that off a movie script. The fake officer stepped forward. Ma'am, interfering with community enforcement is a civil violation. You will be cited on whose authority? Cassidy demanded. Karen raised a printed sheet. As of yesterday, the Cedar Hills Board unanimously approved an emergency jurisdiction extension to include this sector. Cassidy's expression hardened. You forged a vote. I led a vote, Karen said, and majority rules. Cassidy stepped down from the deck slowly, pocketing her phone with one hand. Flare gun holstered at her side. I've got cameras recording every angle, she said. You're impersonating law enforcement, attempting illegal entry, and violating at least 3 state statutes. The man in the blazer looked uncertain now. We were told this was approved. Cassidy pulled out a folded document. Here's the county map, deed records, boundary lines, and a formal cease and desist signed by the sheriff. You're all in violation. Just then, the sound of crunching tires echoed from behind. Sheriff Jenkins' cruiser rolled into view, lights flashing low but firm. He stepped out, thumbs hooked in his belt, looking completely unsurprised. Karen, he said, voice flat, you've officially crossed the line. Karen's face contorted. I'm trying to protect the community by impersonating an officer, forging HOA votes, threatening to seize private land. Jenkins pulled a folder from his car. I've got half the county clerk's office on record saying you tried to tamper with boundary filings. Karen stepped back. I was trying to enforce standards. No, Jenkins said. You were trying to expand your little empire. You turned to the officer in the blazer. You, too. You're not certified, and you're trespassing with intent to intimidate. The man raised both hands. We were misled. I want nothing to do with this. Within minutes, 2 more cruisers arrived. Karen was handcuffed, still screaming about bylaws and board rights as the other enforcers quietly stepped away, clearly aware they'd been used. Cassidy watched in silence as Karen was placed in the back of the cruiser. Then she turned to Jenkins and handed over a second flash drive. This has the drone footage, audio recordings, and every letter she left. Jenkins nodded. You made your case airtight. The dust settled quickly after that. Gautran was formally charged with impersonation, harassment, and unlawful interference with private property. Cedar Hills HOA was audited, and 3 board members resigned within the week. The emergency vote declared fraudulent and void. Cassidy never gloated. She didn't have to. Her quiet satisfaction came each morning we woke to untouched trails, clean skies, and nothing but the sound of birds overhead. Peace returned not as a gift, but as something earned. We installed a new wooden sign on the trailhead. Stillwater Cabin, private property. Entry by invitation only. A small brass plaque below read, "Some lines aren't meant to be crossed." Epilogue weeks later. Cassidy's video edited with drone footage, timestamps and calm narration crossed to 2 million views. Comments flooded in. "This is why you don't mess with veterans." Karen got what she deserved. HOA gone wild. She turned down 3 interview requests. We weren't in it for fame. We just wanted quiet. And now, every ripple on the lake, every rustle in the trees, feels like a promise kept. Karen thought we were a weak link in her chain of control. She never expected that this cabin, this couple, would be the ones to break it.